Live. Good connection. Fandom. 0 watchers. TikTok. I want to basically have a discussion. It's not really a discussion. It's more like a tutorial, more like a lecture, more like a Stephen Hawking breaking down the, not universe, breaking down, high picturing, breaking down society at large. Now this is something I put a lot of thought into because I've been allowed a unique perspective. Unique, you say? In what way is your perspective unique, Laura? Well, it's like this. I used to work 9 to 5 work, longer work, 12-hour shift work, constantly on the ball work. And when you're in that momentum, I even auditioned once when I was a Sky engineer to be a Sky news presenter. Anyway. Anyway, as a Sky presenter, so when I was in this frame of mind, in my work routine, schedule kind of mode of thought, I didn't have much time to reflect or muse upon stuff. And in that place, I auditioned to read news like a pleb. This is about my external image. I'm just going to read what the people are giving me in news presentations, right? So somebody that auditioned to be a news presenter that was in work, I was just happy to read whatever someone put in front of my face, yeah? And that's what we're looking at when we look at society at large on a wage. It's departmentalised, it's compartmentalised, people don't do the research, it's not an organic source of anything, right? The whole vaccine shyster shit, the blips, whatever, it's just the shyster vaccine. When you look at industrial science on such a scale, you just have to say to yourself, shyster, shysters, a bunch of shysters. They're coming at you, shyster mentality. It's very much, I think it's the higher, like, antisocial behaviour to insist that somebody be in the club with that, even if it's against their religion, because it can be against your religion. If you're fundamentally someone that says mind over matter on this planet, my mind over my matter, I do not put it in the hands of industrial science looking through a microscope. That's not how God intended people to spend their life on earth. And going back to the wage thing, it's basically nothing of it is organic. It's like Chinese whispers, it's whatever. And it's like even down to HIV, even down to cancer, even down, I don't go and get screened. I do not want to get cancer. I hope not to reflect on it. But I'm very much a farmed animal in this society, like most people watching through this screen. We're farmed animals. My parents more so than others, because they're like, believe, you know, smoking drugs is bad, all drugs are bad. But, you know, even though little sister's hooked on NHS morphine and smoking nicotine 80 a day, that is like facilitated, enabled drugs in a society tax system, right? You're smoking on formaldehyde, 80 of those a day, and drugs are bad. Alcohol, everybody's favourite societal drug, which I happen to think, I'm not quite sure about it, but esoteric society, it was created by the monks and the religious quarters. Alcohol. Now, when you go to the courts of law, apparently when they used to dress in black, it's because they're mourning your death. Because you're dead. Because you signed a birth certificate and you indoctrinated into what is the biggest cult on the planet. Civilized society. Your death is honoured in the courtroom, whether guilty or not, whatever crime. You're dead anyway. That's why they feel like they have jurisdiction over your entity, because you are dead to them. That's why they wear black and they had the wigs. Anyway, let's break it down further. When you look at the symbols outside the courtrooms, you have the unicorn, third eye, and the lion, which is Jesus Christ, which is the Sphinx outside, the pyramids. It's esoteric society at play. Well, alcohol is a vibrational frequency. It's when authorities get at people. They get their mitts all over you and they've tried to manipulate your entity because of that particular age-old drug. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I do feel like from day one when I heard that storyline on the news, I'm not even going to repeat the name of it because it's perpetuating a corrosive vice, like crushing vice in society, to even sprout and perpetuate some diseases or things. I ain't going to say it, but day one I went, fuck off, bollocks, fuck off. Straight away. Don't need no more clarity than my own head to establish that. People are saying, but it's very real. It's like, is it real? Yes, I've seen one case of it real in my broad social circle that I can feasibly touch and see, because she filmed herself in hospital with it. And she's talking quite happily, going, yeah, oh my God, I got it. I can't believe that I got this. They're giving me all this junk, they put me on this and this. And they're trying to put me on a ventilator. She's talking that loudly. I'm like, all right, she's not struggling to breathe and they're trying to put her on a ventilator. So what I'm trying to say to you is Chinese whispers and the manipulation of a scene and the propaganda behind a movement is very calculated. Wage breakdown, military in the hospitals, always a bad sign. And when hospitals start saying to you, you can't see your family, what the fuck are they? Are they hospitals or are they prisons? Because I can't help but notice on my journey specifically, which has been security background orientated, as somebody that don't really rise to the authoritative position easily, because if I did, I would be somewhere else. But I don't. I just take it in my stride and just observe it all. And I can't help but notice that a lot of people that are frustrated, sexually unresolved problems, things wrong with, like to be dominant, got sadistic streaks, unresolved mental issues, probably abused in the family a little bit, a bit of that oppressed stuff going on coming forward, go and gravitate to uniforms. They get off on it. Dom, fetish stuff in an enabled, facilitated workplace. A lot of people don't think past beyond, oh, I like uniforms, they're sexy, aren't they? I'll get to wear one of them. And they don't really think about much. They're just going about in their business, in their vibrations. And as somebody that is, obviously, you'll find there's a lot of people that disagree with the industrial and the people being subservient to this whole thing. It's like other countries where people throw chewing gum on the floor and it can be this or it can be that. It can be this or that. And in some countries it's really oppressive and you can even get a sentence for it. And in the Western world you wouldn't. Now I'm a liberal. I like being liberated. Somebody that worked as a town centre warden before, when it come out as a scheme in this borough, Greenwich, Royal, I said I don't really want to be giving people tickets. So when my contract was up after 9 months, I left anyway. Wasn't really interested. It doesn't appeal to me, taxing people more upon this earth. Like, for example, somebody smoking a roll-up with a roach, a piece of cardboard, flicks it, and they got on the radio to police over it. I mean, come on. And then there's people that post on TikTok that say it's your human right to just pick up the litter and be given that option. And when someone asks you for your fucking address over it, what the fuck? You say, no. and don't do it. Give them the option, pick it up. And you never give out your address to people. But I've seen people get on the radio, call police over that, and intimidate people and crushing these energetics in society that you see up and down. Regards this whole face thing. It's fucking midsummer. It's everybody's brain falling out their arse. It's got the same dynamics as a seasonal flu, right? We don't worry about the flu in midwinter, summer, do we generally? It's like when those immune systems start falling down because there's a lack of sunlight and stuff, and it's got this dynamic to it. But let's all walk around in a fucking mask all summer. Hey? Don't make no fucking sense. And it never did. Indian variant, bollocks. Bollocks, 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 bollocks. It's an effort just to have us all on one world order shit. Now, this is the last time I'm going to speak about it. I work in film for a decade as a supporting artist. TV, film, Pokemon, all manner of things. And there's a really nice offer of a job at the moment to play police rioting and throwing tear gas and wearing masks and stuff in London. And I do want to do it. I'd like to do it, but I refuse to have a swab stuck up my nose and in my mouth. And then, for how many times just to do it? I'm not going to do it. Just a matter of principle, because it's violative. It's a violation of my human rights. And it's bollocks. Because you're perpetuating industrial. Of all these people got, like you these apps on here where you can download and invest in pharma. Has everybody got shares in pharma? Is that why they're all going along with it? If I do that, does my face go fat, skinny, fat, skinny? There ain't no special effects on it, but it's doing something really fucking strange when I do that. Just go like that. So yeah, but basically that's the point of it. It's a unique perspective to step outside of the framework, which is a wage, where you're just conforming and enforcing and giving your directives. Because ultimately, people just don't know. Like the Black Plague. I mean, that was a London thing predominantly, right? But at the same time, it was absolutely vile, like sanitation-wise. Because it was what it was. It was dirty. People throwing their shit out onto the street. People, if they would come down and they died because of a plague back then, you just didn't have inoculations for it or whatever. And it's like these things. It's just the flu. It's the same dynamic. And they say, oh, it's the same death rate in vulnerable people. So why is everybody going crackpot crazy shit about it? And then there's people that get 2 jabs and then they get the thing. And my brother said, yeah, but it might not be so severe, the case that you'll get. That's why you should get the jab. That's what my brother said. I says, so a vaccine that doesn't stop you getting it. And you won't get it as badly, he says. But I said, ain't there a lot of people being diagnosed with it with no fucking symptoms? Doesn't any of it add up to you? Because from day one, I just went bollocks. And ever since that day one, that I choose to believe it was bollocks, in my head, all I've just been seeing is inconsistency, crap, bullshit, numbers, figures, didn't add up, none of it, shit, bollocks. And a person like fucking Boris Johnson, who stands there saying, I would never usher in ID cards. ID cards are the utmost in tyranny. Really? And then he shags some tart that's got shares in what? Is it? Oh, something to do with something. Something to do with ID. And these apps, like, I mean, I live in Greenwich Borough. We got Ravensbourne College there, which is a media tech department, which basically has all the, the beep, 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 the NHS app thing, those square pixelated fucking digress into AI technology that the human being's becoming. Like, what? Really? I mean, it's just, that's corrosive. To me, that's corrosion of the human organic entity that is us. It's like elderly people with no phone memory. You're being told, oh, if you got the NHS app, have you installed this, have you done that to get into the bar just to sit outside where there's loads of tables You could just take a seat and be safe. Like, they're making you do all these stupidity. It was so obvious that it was just like people looking for work. We got people looking for work. They have to find work. So they're employing these new technological advances and they're trying to implement them so people have work. But it comes to a point on this planet, organic planet, that you have to say, shut the fuck up and stop. Yeah, we know it's all important to use your little mind, make you feel unique, because each one of us is unique and we need to find a way to express our uniqueness and make money. But it comes to a point when it's just no longer fun. I mean, I know there's a lot of autistic and stereotype-minded people out there and about there because they've been neglecting to give their children cultural experiences. They've been demonising weed and demonising all the other things in other cultures that give people more neurodiversity. They've been banning things like ayahuasca or spiritual experiences. They don't take their kids to solstice sites. They just stare at a goggle box and say, get a job and sign on, and if you don't, you're fucking on Jeremy Kyle having a go at each other. And it's just no way to be a human being, is it really, over a wage or money dictatorship. And that's what it become. Like, the world's gone a bit tits up on behalf of money. There are other societies that try to buy into the Bitcoin because they say, well, you're moving away from some sort of banking system corruption, corrodedness. Because, you know, you all did die in World War II and fuck all really. You know, we were presented with a picture of some prick that was just fronting probably a whole bunch of Somalian bankers and investors in the richest continent on the planet with all its gold and jewels that was trading since Victorian times. German, English, French forts across that motherland, mothership. So it's like, it's all an evolutionary experience, but you can't trust what you're presented with on the screen as Boris Johnson, because he ceased to be an entity to me. Like, he's like literally looking at Mr. Blobby. Might as well have Mr. Blobby up there fronting it, go, because it's just like, you're just somebody that's just puppet fronting for industry. That now I understand. When I look at Hitler, that's just a puppet fronting for industrial, deep-seated esoteric society in Somalia's hatred of Jewish people that was funding this, fueling this. They had great investors in that campaign. It doesn't start with one twat with doing that. It is what it is. So what we talk about is like Greta, get down with it, Greta Thunberg, pushed forward for film industry and even films and stuff. Oh, we want to close down industrial, we want to make the world a better place, we want to get rid of plastic, and all the green people. It's like people are being measured and valued in how much they give the planet in green. Now, since I was a kid, they were telling me that there was green issues, and everybody was ignoring it quite happily, pumping through the 80s and 90s. It's been going on for 30 years, imagine, in my head. Like, oh, it's sort of like a battle between having fun on this planet and getting your sports car and doing all them things, and then there's that quarter that were just starting to come through. The greenies. And then there's Greta just sits there with a face on her and goes, "Grow the fuck up." And then all these politicians swarming around her going, it's like, this is our ticket out of here. Greta, a little fucking child, because you're all fucking whatever. What is it? So she's trying to close down the industrial, right? She's just trying to say, stop the traffic. That's what she's thinking in these minds. But where for me, somebody who hasn't been given an ounce of recognition, can't even get my fucking TikTok followers up, started about a decade ago trying to sort of like give people this impression of the industrial in a different sense, saying weapons industrial. I used to sit with my 90-year-old nana and be like, Nan, it's disgusting, isn't it? Look at the amount they're spending on fucking nukes and nukes and nukes and nukes. And all it takes is picking up sometimes one book in a library that will make you see that there's an elite cabal collected globally, and there's actually probably no threat unless they want the threat and they just make a demand for the threat, and the threat is often actually just like churned bullshit and inside jobs and just industrial perpetuation of cycles, like a lot of people believe 9/11. 9/11 inside job. The new film out of Jodie Foster indicates that they were just forcing fucking confessions out of people that were innocent. Again, sort of giving you that idea that, yeah, it's definitely an American inside job, that one, just to perpetuate that industrial violence and clinical, sterile, psychological evil. And there is a lot of darkness in this world. There's a lot of evil in this world. People don't ever want to hear it or whatever. They want to just be like, yeah, it's a factory reset. But under what conditions? People being subservient, submissive nothings. Like, a lot of people think it's feeding into an Islamic sort of like subtlety and to not, you know, but why? The Western world done all its work to try and liberate people, to make them happy and free. And quite honestly, as a person that lives in the United Kingdom, I used to like glorify our place and say it's great, isn't it? Isn't it the best world place to be for its lack of punishment for things and being gay or whatever and being allowed to explore your things. But I have also learned that there are investors in hatred within, and there is still very much alive and kicking people that think that it is wrong. But you couldn't get any person more close to Jesus than myself. My mum's a Christian, and I like to believe that that's my only role model. So go figure that one out. When I started talking about closing down the industrial, we're talking about weapons, we're talking about all industrial. We're not just talking about that, we're talking about science as well. Like those people marching into their laboratories to look through their things, to It's like there are species in the rainforest, yeah, that we haven't found. They keep discovering, and it's the same as a germ. Oh, we found one. Oh God, do you think? It affects this and it affects that. And they said it. My brother said no, it's very harsh on the organs, internal organs. This thing. I says like. But how about that 5G? Because people that live underneath electricity masts, they have higher rates of cancer. Fact. It's the field around the electricity on those things, when you're living directly under them, fucks people. They get fucked. And do they care? Like politicians? No, they don't. They don't give a fuck. Even though they know that they make higher rates spike. It's the same as those cleft lips and the adverts for charity. What gives the kids the cleft lip? Is there something that they're poisoning them with in their substances? You know, it's like that Teflon film. Anybody seen Dark Water? Oh, let's just ignore the fact. Let's ignore it all, Dark Water script. It's the same as industrial perpetuation. They can't admit climate change because that would mean liability for 40 years. Oh, yes, let's try and close down industrial. Is everybody forgetting the obvious? And they're going along with COVID. It's a total false flag. It's a total misdirection, and it totally is what it is. And at the end of it, when everybody can't have their vaccines unless they go there, it's like an elite little club that are allowed to still carry on living. But the rest of you, if you don't believe in it, you're just like, whatever. And that's elitist discrimination of masses upon masses of people, which is serving the purpose of less industrial. Me personally, right, having worked in film, supporting artists for a decade, I ain't got none of the perks and all of the aggro. I've got really wrong attention from authority abuse. Like I was literally lost my van, my Mercedes, got 500 quid from it from We Buy Any Fucking Car, Philip Schofield, with a bed in the back and a sound system, but inadvertently lost it because the police coming through traffic. All I did was mirror signal manoeuvre and felt like a controlled collision with a prop Toyota, so I no longer have a van because honey trap in the van took picture of licence and then proceeded to keep slamming the door in the face. Can't make this shit up. Like, where's my van? I ain't got a van. But it's just like that. Taking vehicles off the road is very much, I think, a covert thing going on at the moment. I don't know. Anybody else got any experience with that in London? Anybody else got any experience with people getting their vehicles covertly taken off them with the help of a honey trap and a fucking police van? So anyway, when it comes to the vaccine, basically there's one rule. Don't be a pleb. Don't follow the mainstream media. Just be Bob Marley. Emanch yourself from mental slavery. Because there's never been more of an indoctrinated house in the Western Hemisphere than my parents. TV on in the kitchen, in the front room, in the back room. Now, I used to be the person that would go along with it, but then I thought, no, You know what? I wouldn't have had my mumps or my chicken pox or any of them if I was a kid and I had a voice that was allowed to be used as a kid. I'd say, fuck off. Fuck off. That's what I'd say. I was going to say fuck off as an adult. Because I don't appreciate the work that the NHS do. I don't appreciate the work that the NHS as a body do. Why, you say? Because tax. I don't believe in tax. Russell Brand can sit there and say, I don't vote. I don't believe people should have to vote. But I found that they put all these little junctures up trying to stop people from being liberated. One of them is, like, you have to fill out your your census. Why? I don't want to fucking fill out a census. Maybe I want to live in a van and just drive around most of my life, and I don't want to fill out a census because I don't want to vote for any of you, because I don't believe in any of your industrial front puppet twat faces. I feel like as a community globally, we could do better without you. Do better without you, mate. We could literally join up the farming communities, make a nice healthcare system. Imagine the likes of TikTok as an intranet where people had surgeons, a database of nurses and stuff, and feed a nice middle ground that doesn't actually rely on taking tax money. Because the amount of people that are alternatives and dietitians can get in there before invasive things like chemotherapy, which is probably the biggest industrial earner on a fucking global front, probably. And some countries go mad for it, they do. They go mad for that chemo. And they believe that industrial vein of thought. They hijack your spiritual being and your dietary solutions. Same as they do with diabetes type 2. They hijack your disease and pump you for that for the rest of your life because that makes them money. Supply and demand. You can turn around diabetes type 2 and they touch on it just for a moment on things like This Morning with Phil and Coffer. Touch on it, don't they, for a second and say, oh yes, you can turn around type 2 diabetes. You can kick your pancreas in straight away like that if you just follow a set diet and stay disciplined for a month. Would you rather that, or would you rather be popping pills for the rest of your life, or a month? Do you want to dedicate a month to your own well-being, or do you want to pump yourself full of that? Same as rheumatoid arthritis. Debilitating disease. When you're first struck down with it, I've witnessed that firsthand. Due to emotional strain, it was damp. He was doing the biggest job, my dad, at the British Museum. Heaviest weights he's had to pick up as a lift engineer, and he's getting towards retirement. Now picture it. I'm getting on. He's picking up, and it's raining, and then the circumstances were right to just kick in a massive rheumatoid arthritis episode. Again, they say that's leaky gut, and it's little fibres of food getting into your joints and compromising them, and a combination of things. So you can turn that one around as well. You should look after that and respect that. You haven't got to be on that for the rest of your life, but then they resort to injections. So it's an industrial vein of thought, and that's what's gone wrong with the human race. It's turning into pixelated square dot crap, and people losing their sense of identity. I mean, they're doing away with the church now. Do you want to get cremated, or do you just want to ship out the body and return it in a pot? Here you go. Here's your loved one. They harvested their organs. What have they done? What are they doing? What's going on? It's very clinical. It's getting very sterile and clinical. And people are just encouraged just to stay indoors and just speak for a screen unless you're very wealthy. And then you've got your private jets and you can carry on jet setting, go getting all over the earth. With no zero human rights. But anti-vaxxers and all this stuff, you shouldn't have to take to the streets en masse to do that. Because personally, like, industrial has this way, I mean, in my borough, it's kind of creepy. It's like parents are sort of like demonised, or, oh, you're being neglectful if you don't take your kid to the dentist twice a year. Neglect. And they're like, it's like they're so paranoid or looking for the smallest little thing to sort of scream neglect at someone. So parents become very like, okay, do. That they couldn't see past that. Industrial, we are in charge of your entities kind of things. Like, I personally don't vote won't fill out a census when it says £1,000 fine punishment and shit. I just ignore it, because literally it come about by mistake, because I put my head in the stand and I had a water bill debt, and I was just like, but I can't be a customer to someone that keeps putting the phone down. I've got customer service training. Why do you keep putting the phone down on me? I'm telling her I haven't lived there for a year, so what am I going to pay for? And it's like, by law. It's not law. When they come up with the new laws, the ones that serve corporations and other big entities and made you feel intimidated to an inch of their life, they're not actually that powerful. But you have to really break that headset to get from through to the other side, keep on going. And when I went to a place called Avesbury, a person gave me a book called Freedom is More Than a Word, and it breaks it all down for you in terms of common law. Common man on the land stuff. Now, some of it's a little bit like, oh, that's extreme, isn't it? You've got to write a letter to the politicians saying you're basically no longer any part of that. But I think they're getting the message, because a lot of people are en masse doing it more and more, because they're just like, for one, can't keep up. My parents, they pay now for a TV licence, because they're the only saps that probably would, because when we joined the EU, information become free, and there's this guy in the Guardian that is a journalist and says, take me to court, come on, bring it, come on, bring it, because they won't take him because he's going to win, and then it's going to be a high profile case of man wins. Don't have to pay for your TV licence because information's free. I mean, all this TikTok, all these other, I don't watch BBC hardly ever. I might put on the odd episode of EastEnders for the drama, and that's it. But it's like, why am I going to pay for that? Especially when there's a person, back in the day, went to some festivals, and there's this couple that really were advocates of 9/11 being an inside job. They were so sure, and they both were all in. The BBC bought off him to go doing interviews in USA, all handpicked by the BBB themselves. And he was like, oh, no, it's not. It was totally a terrorist attack. Yeah, totally a terrorist attack. Even though that film tells you otherwise, that they're forcing confessions out of people that were innocent. Inside job. But the point is, people don't really like the truth. And COVID is so far removed from the truth, I think. And I choose to believe that. I said, you're probably more likely having a Russian spy administer shit to you, to anybody that contradicts it. Because they just want that conglomerate, one world. Subservience, almost like a sexual fetish, if you will. Kind of like the psychopathic energetic that is on the planet in lots of forms, but sometimes it's in plain sight in high places. Like the Times magazine, the guy that built the Twin Towers, it says 5 to 9 on his clock, and he's sitting posing in the build up to the towers. Preordained event, long before planned. And the weird part about it was, when I lived in a place and I used to go to the pub, a guy come in with his tarot deck, 2 towers burning on it, shortly before, and he was like, they're going to try and bring down the whole financial district, financials. I was like, and it happened. Cheers, thanks. Yeah, and it happened. So it's like it was planned. In certain quarters, Freemasonry, Masons. Like I said, you can pick up one book that change your whole outlook. Like the Knights Templar used to transport money all over Europe, Islam. Imagine, there's men of nobility going into every part of the land to deal with the money. And when you think about that since 1300s, it sort of gives you a bit, just a tiny little bit of perspective on just how networked money is, and people with invested interest in industrial and pharma are. Now, I'm glad to see I've got more than one person watching, because most of my social media says 0. But share this, I don't know if you can share this, but I think I just talked enough about the truth, the whole truth, enough about the truth. And it's like, I find it enlightening. A lot of people don't like it, because, I don't know, guess they don't feel so busy in themselves with their wages or whatever. And then they say, whatever. Yeah, back in the day, going back to the 80s, parents, you're in the wrong if you don't take your kid to the dentist. Now, you go to Wales and they got feral kids running around and shit, but they probably don't go to the dentist. But this might be common sense. Who agrees? If a tooth is small, it's still growing. If it's got a tiny cavity in it, the cavity is probably still growing with the tooth or out or in. Like, it's not formed. So why in the 80s, if you ask loads of 80s kids why they fucking drilled with mercury, because they used to spend hours and it fucking hurt, and every time they'd be like, I'm not even in pain. Go to the dentist, no pain. He ironically called Dr. Pain in the Greenwich Borough. My brother said he was never in pain. Other friend, Ray, said the same thing. Said they used to just fucking drill, zzz, and now your face getting violated at the ages 6, 7 and 8 isn't cool. And I remember he had the mask on and it was very violative, sterile environment, like open wide, and you go to yourself, I think that is not only violation, but it's probably traumatic, and it's something that a child probably shouldn't be going through. But it's industrial, enabled, facilitated perversion kicks. 60 quid, whatever NHS you get for each tooth getting drilled. Clinically sterile, psychopathic kind of energetic in that. Most alternative people, when you run around to festivals, which I think is why they like to shut them down, well, basically, they would advocate not doing that. They'd be like, "There's you shouldn't do that to kids." They just probably fundamentally wouldn't do it. A kid's not in pain; they don't get that kind of thing. But that's what sterility and tuning into that does. And obviously, we've all got the information available to us now via new mediums that tell us what's the difference between right and wrong. Because sometimes we just need more community, we need more people breaking it down for each other, whether you like it or not. And it's slow progress. In a place like Greenwich, I swear, like people, weed is coming through. And when they say when you free the weed, you free the nations, is what Zion, higher than Zion people believe. Like, and it's true, because it does diversify thinking. I think it makes people more, they just literally become wise to the things that would otherwise have stayed on. Like when I was talking about this and feelings, it never occurred to me. Do you know what happened when it occurred to me? When I was past 30. And it was a case of like, I went to the dentist with a tooth because I received a blow to my face, hit by a bus, supposedly. And I went to the dentist and I said, it hurts a bit. He goes, oh, you need immediate root canal. So it was about 4 years ago. Do you know what root canal looks like on a front tooth? It's like half yellow, half grey. It looks minging. And a friend that plays drums, he's got one on his front tooth. And that's the kind of job that they do there. I was like, wow, they just do not give a fuck, do they, really? Any chance at a job, anything, work on that. And it's just, you're just a piece of meat to this, like, to industrial mind. To industrial mind, you're not anything to be treated, revered or worshipped or idolised and spiritually blessed. And a lot of people on the TikTok, which I'm really loving, is they do deal in crystals and Reiki and the power of suggestion, and these rocks do have energy. Like, I remember my friend gave me a Reiki book, really quite young, teenager, and it had like, I can't remember what it was now, but basically it had 2 hands on it, healing hands. Somebody calling me. Healing hands, anyway. They put 2 quartz, smoky quartz at the end of the feet, because that's going to take, the smoky quartz is going to draw out the negative energy. And they laid out the crystals, formulations along the body. And then they were doing the Reiki channeling. Now, to me, that makes sense. Like, they're doing the Reiki channeling. You know the Reiki sign, which is basically like the conch shell. The conch shell, which is basically what makes us up, the building blocks of existence. And so this Reiki symbol, which is what you'd be using to channel energy through the body and out the negative blockages or whatever. And that is what it mostly is, because it's inflammation. Most disease is inflammation. So if you sort out the inflammation and you do this sort of thing before implementing industrial madness all over things. And the way I'm starting to see life more and more these days is it's a case of just tribes. There are certain tribes, and like people on here, they sound a bit wacko, you'd have thought, but it is like races. You've got the greys, the grey people, the greys, who like to obviously implement and control, sterilise into things so they can manage it, which I guess I suppose is like a form of autism if you look at it on a grand scale, because that person needs it sedate and this and monitored, and it needs that vibration. And then there's other people that are more creative and artistic, and they were getting a lot of funding in Greenwich, like primary school. Apparently there was an arts council above all my primary school lessons. So you're more alternative thinking, or you might be looking for something. I read the Celestine Prophecies at the age of 14, and then the synchronicity and the coincidences and everything, it was off the hook. So much so it become ridiculous, and I was like, the magic was that much that you just took it for granted. But it is what you feed your head, is what you manifest. Now, I've been trying to work on my manifestation via thanks to TikTok and an app called the Law of Attraction Space, because I seriously needed it more than any mother, because a lot of shit happened. And there's a nice little TikToker that says, beware those people, everything was sent to them to destroy them because they are God's people, don't fuck with them. And quite frankly, you're looking at that, because literally, but I don't, it's an energetic, and I don't know if other people experience that energetic, and it's very disturbing. It's a disturbing energetic, and I don't know if it's because of technology. I don't know if it's because a generation has come through where they're dealing with faster paced stuff. I was brought up with the first bop to the beep beep Ataris, first game of tennis, evolved through like the age of 11 to now, but with the first technologies and green screen loading. It's slowed down. That technological world somehow has taken over a lot of people's ability to relate properly. And although I'm saying the law of attraction space is good, there's a lot of other information out there that talks like everybody's got to be labelled a narcissist, or they've got to be got to be labelled this or got to be labelled that. And it's like people don't have the time of day to give to each other. And yeah, it is nice to be strong and independent, but it's also nice to have intimate relationships and stuff like that, isn't it? Without being scared off your tits that somebody's out to get you, or whatever, interests in money. Money is shit. Money ain't jack. It really is not that important, because I think there is an abundance of it, and I think some people are kept from that abundance even though they're entitled to it. I think some people are in danger of literal full-on evolution of slavery, and it's like they're literally kind of stuck in their circumstances because they're marginalised by their own parents and that goggle box. It's like you're almost like vilified if you just want to have a life. You're vilified if you go out the door because it's a scary world out there. It's like those fear vibrations have got the ability to totally take over that dome. But they've also got the ability to reinstall the best of apps like the law of attraction space. But at the same time, I'm a bit wary of them, because I think when you play with your neurology and subliminals and stuff, you're letting in another wave of what's going to come. Who knows? It's a very delicate tool, that. Because I noticed when I started doing it, I kept waking up the middle of the night, which is unusual because I don't. So it was like I was having that, working through something maybe, I don't know. But anyway, thanks for the chat. Hope you like listening. Plenty more where that come from. We're bigger, better than your industrial circumstance and birth. You are not just a thing. Grab a rucksack and travel. It used to be like a birthright of some people, poets and mover shakers of the world. I went to Venice last year, got arrested at the airport, coming back, Stansted, spent 12 hours in a cell for what? Still can't tell you. Said to protect a vulnerable adult or child on the thing. I said, well, that's vilification right there. I said, what's your evidence? He says, oh, a love letter. And it was one that was posted in the Royal Mail. And at that point, and it is mad, telepathy, I had this feeling I was being watched. And I had this feeling, I have these repetitive thoughts. And it manifested in that one. It was like, I kept hearing this like voice. And it kept saying, we know exactly what kind of woman we're dealing with. We know exactly what kind of woman we're dealing with. And it was persistent. And it kept going on over a few days. And then that happened. And I'm like, yes, sometimes we can pick up on something in the ether. Like spidey senses. I'm popular today, you know. Look. Maybe I'm giving up. I don't know. Do I trust my friends and confidants? I don't know. Yes, I do. She's security. SIA. I was just accusing security of probably killing Amy Winehouse. Who lets a person sleep on their front? Because personally, they said it was respiratory failure. And as somebody that's like sings, I think you have stronger respiratory. Although, yeah, I'm not going to blame that on them. But, you know, security and police and people in authoritative positions have been the only people that have really taken some kind of dislike to my path of trying to become an artist. I play guitar, I write songs, if you don't know. I used to work at the Operations Millennium Dome at the O2. Ironic. I was headhunted to do operations because I used to work in the heavens, watching everything, and I was so happy, smiling all the time. It's like, would you like to join us? Yeah. But then it was shit because we don't get to see any of the events, and it's standing on your feet in the middle of the night. And you're telling people that they have to stand on their feet in the middle of the night, even though there's no customers around because one of their colleagues has dozed off. You're all going to get punished. Ex-military heads. I don't see the point. It's like they've got this crank, haven't they? The crankies. Like, there are some cranks in society, and like around certain industrial, obviously you're gonna have cranks, aren't you? Like, I always notice this. There are industrial rackets around. Rackets, so as we know, COVID is just a fucking racket, right? Let's simplify it for ourselves here. Racket. These sort of like common... The thing about what they say common sense is stop becoming that common, right? Rackets. As someone with a massive broad working background, yeah, used to put up satellite dishes at Sky. And I go with my authentic self, yeah. If I've had the audit out once in a year and a man's been there for 10 years, I was the only girl on the team. There was another girl in Brighton out of 1,000 men. So it was a bit like, I just went for it because I get the Sun newspaper, and I was like, yeah, that's good. I get to be my own boss and I ain't got a manager, because I had this tendency to always be picked on in workplaces. I'm weird energetic, where people are always sort of like, yeah, supervisor at B&Q. Really gave me a bit of a hard time, and it really pissed me off. And I'm like thinking, I don't want to manage. I don't like being under a manager. She's always calling me back to the till, and I've literally just walked off the till for my first break. And then you get up to the break room, and there's a man sitting there for 3 hours. He can verify that. All right, Stephen, how long you been there for? 3 hours. I was like, I just walked off the fucking till, and she's calling me back because they're busy. And then she like, and I won wine in a raffle, and then she helped herself to half of it. And then they made her apologise. That was funny. But the point is, it put me off having managers quite early on. And so I went for this job. I thought, I haven't got to see the manager, because you're self-employed and you're driving around. And then man's been there 10 years. I've been there 1. I've had the auditor out once already. And then they're coming to see me again in year 1.5. I'm like, ignoring the phone all day while they're coming to look for me. Ignored it all day. And then I'm standing on a wall about this high with no hard hat. And he's out the front when they eventually find me and catch up with me. And this guy that trained me, that never wore a day's PPE in his life, climbing up the ladders, no helmet, no nothing, he taught me, not that I'm telling you who it was, but he takes a picture because he's standing in for the boss that day. But then I know why they wanted to catch me out. They were looking for a reason to catch her out, because ultimately I used to stick to the rule book. That's a like grade 2 listed building. You're not supposed to have ugly things on the front of it. You're not supposed to have satellite dishes on it. If your neighbour complains, it's going to cost you how much to take it down. I used to just tell the truth and be home by like really early. Plus, they used to give me the biggest fucking properties, and they were like triple ladder stuff, and it was too much. But everything happens for a reason. So I used to forget to put the ladder clamps on twice. Stop in the middle of the road. Bit dangerous that, when you're a bit scatty. So, anyway, I digress. Big working background. So I saw a lot, and I started to appreciate how departmentalization really helps everybody not have a Scooby-Us what's going on. Running around like rats, doing a thing. Dun, 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 dun. There is no accountability. There is no thread of a storyline. Work in media as well. Go to the Excel Centre. Go to this other BVA place. What do they tell you? What do they teach you? The importance and the benefits of password sharing. That happens in other industrial. Statistics manipulated. This manipulated. Greta was trying to close down industrial. Cyber hacking. People with ultra intelligent motivations for trying to save the planet are fuckery with it all. It is literally, there is not one iota of that storyline you should be focusing on, because it's like looking at, it's literally like looking at that black and white fucking screen beep thing as a version of the world. But it's all moderated by anonymous people in the masks, the different kettles of fish all over the place that have investments in whatever they're invested in. But for the fucking fronters of it, like Boris and those world leaders, to stand there so matter-of-factly talking like they actually have an ounce of fucking trust and belief in the process at this point is a reason to just never listen. Do that the whole time, I'm telling you. What? Yeah. So I hope that made sense to you. I hope it helped iron out some of your things. Sometimes you should just have zero tolerance and zero faith in the mainstream presentation as is. As somebody that lives in London, that went to all those Extinction Rebellion things, where they actually, even Boris went out and talked to them, that was not televised. They're sending me emails saying, do you want to come and talk to Boris? The stuff you see on there, as opposed to that, two different things. Do you know what I'm saying? Two different things. So he's entertaining people, listen to all their concerns. They were actually trying to run these protest sites like a democracy, like as everybody has a bit of an input. When should we go home? When should we not? Like the politics had ceased to exist. So really what you're seeing when it comes to Boris is really nothing at all, really. It's just a flimsy little entity. And if you can believe in one thing, it's the next decade. They were predicted a decade of threats. The French people, artists, other people, Greta stuff, a decade of threats that they're going to keep rolling out because of climate change. Obviously, they can't admit that. Dark water script, liability. 40 years worth of ignoring it, the government, allowing it, backhanders like Evan Almighty. Keep the industrial going, keep it going. Greta has made a big turning point in that, but what you've got to realise is what's going to come along with Greta is a whole bunch of bollocks about flus, variants, and pressure to get it or not get it, or get it or get it, until whatever, because they're trying to do that. Although noted, the amount of cars, all the same, innit? Nobody's really listening to that side of it anyway. And lay off the fucking e-scooters, you twats. You know, at the end of the day, you work in London. You see all that. You see all those people going on about green issues, and then you go, can't you ever just switch that fucking... And it's like on the news, oh, one kid got killed because of a scooter. Oh, fuck, did he? Let's put every car accident on the news, shall we? Sense of perspective in these things is needed, because at the end of the day, people need alternatives. If cunts are stealing their fucking vehicles off the roads, as good as, if the do-gooders and the police or whatever fucking retrograde program has been happening to me, literally disempowering me to an inch of my life. I ain't got a fucking car, I haven't got a vehicle, and it's just like, oh, what, I can't rent one because I ain't filled out a fucking census. I can't, because of an app's telling me I ain't filled out census now. So even a fucking app's dictating, I can't even get a car. Or the privileges of the Western world just taken away from you like that. If we want, don't go to Venice during COVID, we'll arrest you. Fucking pervs, have you strip searched for what? Strip searched? Do you know what I mean? Pervy little creepy cunts in a uniform. At the end of the day, last form of fetish to be enabled within an industrial sense, if I think you'll find, is one-party non-consenting bondage. From the amount of videos that I see all over the internet of people just getting arrested unnecessarily, especially an FBI agent, that was a good video. Well done. I'm an FBI agent, what the fuck are you doing? Putting him in cuffs because he's a black man. You know, if we think we've got issues, it's ridiculous. What I see is ridiculous. I used to work in security. I see people provoking people all over the show in a uniform. Your job is supposed to be calm it down and make the environment happy. You can't live with the non-drama. They just want to make it, they want to aggravate it. They throw energy at things because there's something in themselves that's obviously clearly not refined, not self-mastered. Or if they do, they feel like it's about a bravado show and who's got to get up the upper hand. I ain't about that. Trust me, I ain't about it. I don't care. I'm just a mouthpiece, so you have more peace of mind rather than be, if you're bothered about it. Because personally, I go through phases. It's like being a spectrum. 1 minute it's scared to do anything because of a energetic working on my head. I'm like, do I go up to Camden today? The anniversary, decade, Amy Winehouse's death. Last time I was up there was security kicking off for somebody for no good reason, and I was quite loud about it and said, your fucking job to not do that, it's the fucking not. So I shouted at security, and then I'm thinking, and then there's things that have happened in my past, and you feel like, is it an industrial racket around a music venue? Certain characters you don't want to meet, and I don't have enemies, but there are a couple of people's heads that I wouldn't mind on spikes outside Tower Bridge. Just saying. Like an episode of The Simpsons, that. But if people do cross you, and they do cross you to the point that they're stunting your musical life and you can't go into a venue because you think that particular individual might be there, and when that person is there, you're getting physically assaulted by a bouncer who's probably part of that person's clique. And that person does not deserve any part around music. I just call it the blimp, like the bad year blimp. This is the good year blimp, the bad year blimp. I had many bad years because of blimps. A couple of blimps that ain't got musical talent, but fuck with the talent. And it's like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This person doesn't really generally trust people that they just met, but on the one occasion you do, you think you might have been mulkered, and then the next minute that person's following you around by coercion because this girl happens to like you and apparently that's his best friend, so all of a sudden you're in a clique and you're being filmed everywhere. And then the penny slowly drops. That must be what that private video is on the YouTube. And then you beg and plead with social media to take it down. Please, okay, please, take it down, please, please, please. Do YouTube give a fuck? Even if you think that they might be actually promoting a criminal racket that might go all the way up to, say, like, you know, Kevin Bacon, the guy, maybe advertising it. Because, like YouTube, I work in film, supporting artists. It's like, if you're a commodity to certain circles and you feel like you had someone get their mitts on you, you don't really want to go out and socialise. You're going to be a depressed person for quite some time. Malka has contributed to many suicides across the world, and there was actually a protest in Japan about it. It's only become legal in 2015, imagine that. So you can set up a video and you can covertly film anybody doing anything, and you know, that's fine. It's not fine. It's so far fucking from fine. But it's a kink, a perversion, a fetish for some people. So if you've been victim of this, you've been victim of that, and you don't actually want to, you feel like there might be a darkness out to get you. It might be a very real feasible threat that I feel when I have a day like today and go, I'm not going there today. Because I just saw on TikTok that Amy Winehouse died 10 years ago today. And I shouted at security. Her security were in charge of her when she died. Don't trust security. Sometimes the worst people I've ever met have been in security and police, I think. It's like people can believe what they want about like the presentation on that screen, but it takes a hell of a lot more to diversify yourself and your thinking and be a critical thinker and stand up and really represent yourself. And I love to see the people protesting these days and the ravers and the people trying to just smash apart the old system and way of looking at things. Because it's been very draconian, oppressive and marginalising to a whole demographic of people across the land, up and down the country, from here to USA to Japan, I'm sure all over the world. And what I'm talking about is actually your political system just being a fucktard and being corrupted and being crooked, and always has been. Because at the end of the day, those people have only ever been in power with the help of heavies called police. The police have got jobs to do that are not just like labelling everyone feared. I've had so many thefts happen to me. Like, it's just like, what did I ever pay for them for? The amount of crimes and shit and stuff. And the only thing they've ever done for me is try to vilify me. And make me, what was it? Oh, I was walking home drunk, minding my own business one day, and then someone starts harassing me and provoking me from behind, and I responded. Now, whatever I said, I'm not sorry for, because you shouldn't really stalk, provoke, and follow someone. But, you know, it ended up in court, a drunken disorderly, for just swearing at a cop officer. Ended up in court with it got diminished. I might have offended a member of the public eye with my mouth. Got diminished to that in court. I said guilty because I was advised, say guilty because you get off, yeah? With a duty solicitor. For anybody who doesn't know, that's just a waste of space. That just says, just plead guilty because you won't have to go to another courtroom. Because you don't want to long out something as pathetic as that. But anyway, they kept a bag and a coat hanging off my cuffs for an hour and a half. So I had wrists chafed and photos taken. I think I've still got a line where it's there still. And the doctor took pictures, and I'll be like, and they're standing there just watching me in pain. I'm saying, this is hanging off, this is hurting, this is cutting into my wrist, blah. And then they're standing there just looking at me like that, ignoring me. So I was like, you're animals, basically. This behaviour deserves to be in a fucking fetish club, pick up a whip, go and get your kicks off somewhere else, you know. So I was very verbally whatever, and I said everything I'm about to say is inadmissible because it's under low-level torture. But anyway, in court it got diminished to that, and on paper it reads that I'm a racist, religious, aggravated harasser in words and writing. What's that? What the fuck is that? Is it because I'm an artist with a social presence on my Facebook that basically had a objective and a mission to try and correct the psychological ideology that makes people go into the army with the information that I've obtained? Pretty straightforward thing that I was trying to achieve, but that's what I was doing on my social media. So I think they might have known who I was, and that's why they threw that book at me. It was after a unity march. People were holding up signs and stuff, but I was just walking around filming things, dancing to jungle. And after that, so I don't know where writing comes into it or anything, but basically I've got a CRB that reads like fiction. And I said, well, that's like a kill target, man. At the time, I was like, I couldn't even go to America with that. I was fucked up. They could fucking just put a bullet in my head over there. Me say like she come with a bomb or some shit. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? The end of the fuck with you, to be fucked with, is to be fucked with by the law system. When it ceases to serve you, you don't really vote for it and you don't really care. And so when I went to Venice, right, arrested for basically, I met this girl at a festival, long story short, ghosted me. But she said she'd been in the mental health system, and she said she used to do cocaine and had a big habit with it. So I was like, I read a story about a boxer once that said that he used to think the whole world was out to get him and they were shouting outside and all this sort of like delusional shit he was going through because of his cocaine habit. And I was like, okay, so I think I know what I'm dealing with in that particular person, but I still care. So anyway, I carried on writing letters. Very spontaneously, because I was like, okay. She kept throwing a word around boundaries. So I was like, okay, there's boundaries, and then there's plain right fucking slamming the door in my face, and I don't know what I've done. So I basically wrote a letter. I think it was going down to about once, whenever the mood took me, like once a month maybe. And that was what they gave me as evidence. I was like, she didn't at any point actually say, don't contact me or I'll call the police, which is normal progressive behaviour. Send me a fucking email. Get your brother to send an email. Get your mother to send an email. We used to call that in professionalism a procedural protocol. Procedure. Oh, we used to have an escalation procedure. That's the one. You don't throw fucking plainclothes blue lights at somebody at a fucking Stansted airport coming back from Venice. Huh? And I wrote to my MP and I said, what the fuck was that? Is that an LGBT home? What the fuck? What is that? You tell me what that is. And his response was, you shouldn't have carried on contacting her. What a cunt. They always point at you. They're always trying to oppress you. It's like these cunts in uniforms, these fascist pigs in uniforms, they're everywhere. They're everywhere as this entity that is actually literally crushing the life and soul out of people, or trying to. And then you have little rays of sunshine from the other side of the pond that come through and say, don't mess with people that were supposed to be destroyed, that are supposed to be destroyed, because they are God's people. Which then got me to thinking whether society is actually one big fat fucking cult. Because my mum wears a cross around her neck. Like, she's a Christ person. And I'm like, Yeah, he's my role model, right? But do I have to actually go through loads of persecution and bullshit just to actually get somewhere? Is that what you're telling me? Is it actually fundamentally at the heart of it actually programming you to believe that you are worthy of nothing but fucking abuse and shit from people? Is it? Because, like, literally, someone saying, "Oh, I'm so proud of my lesbianism," saying on Facebook. I was like, well, actually, all it's actually fucking so that was just like the epitome of fucking shit. There, I was like, are you sure Film Society just haven't rented out a cell and got a fucking interview out of me under illicit circumstances? Hear me out. I think Ronald Reagan actually exposed that. But being on film sets, the Metropolitan Police are always on set. Met on set. Yeah? I did a thing called Strike on the BBC. I was playing photographer. And I was like jumping to try and take pictures, just doing this. And this woman was really quite Latin. And she just said one sentence to me. She was playing a police officer. She said, "Oh, you're a feisty one, aren't you?" And I was like, she's a real policewoman. On set. Because, like, I looked at the uniforms that they had, and then I was like, yep, they're all marked up. Met on set. So it stands to reason, if they're on there, blue lights, my dad I swear he used to have a blue light in the shed. Don't know where he got him from. I might have to ask him. But what is that? Are they that easy? You just put one on the car. Does anybody question it? CID, whatever that is. And they fly you down the fucking motorway with your elderly parents waiting outside for you. Worried sick. What the fuck's that? That she hasn't come back. And they take you into a cell, strip search you, and you're just like, what is this for? Oh, to protect a vulnerable adult child. Fucking fucktard society. Fucktard society. Esoteric society. Manoeuvring via police cells. Crossover industrial. Made me question everything I thought I knew about what I thought I heard. About everything. Again. Once again. So that's my main job. I am an artist. And I've lived a broad life. Thus, I am telling you what you need to diversify your thinking always. Always. And I'm going to go in there. Maybe I don't want to. Friend calling from choir. Super talented person. His name's called Thomas Pilska. Got a few mental health issues. Well, you would have if you lived in a whatever that is. They call it living in a hostel. Hostels. And basically, he likes to have a drink and stuff, but you're treated like a pet, really. And it's like, alcoholism. And I don't like that about our Western society. Like I'm trying to teach you and educate you in, like how to be disempowered by the whole gross, egoic, industrial corrupter that is our society. He's a product of it because obviously he's genius, but he's living in a hostel. Where you're treated like, don't have a drink, you're not coming in, or whatever. You got people on the doors, and what is it? A low-class hotel won't let you in and then tells you need to go to rehab and blah, 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 blah. Most people that play musicians do like a drink. They do like a drink. And as I was just explaining to you, alcohol is the fundamental, most depraved corrupter there is that people can actually then get at you, as is the case when I've got a CRB reading like shit. Because I was drinking. I was walking home, man. My own business as a lone female. It's not safe to do that on the streets of London, not with uniforms about. So yeah, that was that. And then last year, which obviously there was nothing. But anyway, they investigated for 3 months, confiscated. Didn't even get my fucking phone back. Take your shit. And you're like, what is that? I've just been basically bullied once again by the big, gloated whatever. Industrial crossovers, society at large. It's a price I think you pay if you're trying to get into industrial, or you're trying to stand out or have an opinion, apparently. But social media should make us all that, right? Because I swear down everything that I ever say. The minute I say, I've been saying this for decades on social media, and then I hear things on the radio and I'm thinking, that fucker's getting paid for what I said years ago. All of a sudden that's a hot topic, and I said that on my Facebook wall. I haven't been rewarded for any of the input that I put on social media tirelessly thus far. How do I like to say all the shit? Seems all the shit. All I want to buy is buy a fucking boat to get away from energetics that I don't trust. Because there is darkness in society, and there are people that would off a Jimi Hendrix or a Winehouse because they're not performing or not sticking to their managerial fucking whatevers. And it feels like that, I think, is the impression, because you're working through generational curses, as a lot of people are talking about on TikTok when they're talking about spiritualism. There are people that leave off-grid, go off-grid because they don't want the dynamic that they can feel. And it's the same thing with this. It's like, I am acutely aware that I don't want to actually deal with anybody because of a council house. Because it's like, that's not an energetic that I should be caught in or should be in. Because I shouldn't be. Because my mum bettered herself. She got married and she got out of a council flat. Why should she tell me to go backward? This is very backward, because then you're in an energetic where you can be gotten at by other influences around venues, establishments, drinking dens of iniquity, whereupon lots of agents in your community operate out of, because it's the easiest way to get at players. Think about that. It's such a cult, isn't it? The whole Western world's a cult. Yes, alcohol. I wonder if you get any kudos for being loyal to alcoholism. I do this. When it's sunny, I do this. So get your hands out. That's one. That picture. It's a picture of Jesus doing this, isn't it? It's like the little, patterns on your hands are unique to you, aren't they? Oh, charge up yourself for the sun. You have to die. I don't need to die so you all can live, but I bet you I've got to get back to these people that called me. Or have I? But anyway, I hope you like listening. Please share, because I don't think you're going to meet someone more switched on in your entire life than my good self. And quite frankly, yesterday I went to McDonald's, and I don't eat much red meat, but now and again, if I'm drunk and I go in there, I'll be like, Savers menu. And they've got a new feature where you can add extra everything. So I add extra everything. Gherkins, onions, sauce, lettuce. And then they gave it to me as just 2 pieces of bread filled with lettuce and sauce. And I was like, as I walked to the counter, I felt the man's intention. I didn't even need to engage him. I was just like, oh, okay, looking for a response and stuff, this one. So when I opened it, I was like, walk out straight away. Don't engage situations of potential anything, because too much at stake when it comes to shit. When it comes to this particular individual, there's too much at stake. Thus, it's about time I had my own security. Anyway, catch you later.